Hey beauties, this is a different type of vlog, a different type of video. Today I'm actually doing a presentation at church.
What a friend we have in Jesus.
I was asked to do a short presentation because I almost said no, guys. I'm currently in a season where I'm trying to not say no as often. So a friend asked me to do a presentation at church, and to be very honest, my first answer was no. Like, that come on my head, that come on the tip of my tongue, and I prayed about it. I must say, God, what do I do? And I decided to say yes. So we are here. I won't lie, I'm freaking out just a little. I'm not as nervous as I expected to be, but I figure it's probably gonna come like when I get inside church, because I'm actually here. I figure it's gonna come when I like get inside church and like, you know, it starts to soak in. But yeah, they asked me to speak on social media and how to use social media in evangelism, which right up my alley, right? So yeah, like I said, it's a very short presentation, guys. She said 10 minutes. So yeah, I feel like I'm gonna take longer than 10 minutes because y'all know when I start talking to y'all, I talk right? And I'm telling myself to just pretend like I'm talking to y'all so that I don't get too nervous and you know, start chewing up my words and all that jazz. But yeah, and I also chose today because they're actually having like a week-long series. It's Andrew's church, guys. They're having a week-long youth series or something like that. And I chose tonight because I knew Leon would be back and I needed the moral support because Abigail have work. So I figure tonight would be best because we actually do have an engagement tomorrow. And I don't know, I'm not a fan of leaving my house on a Friday. So yeah, today was the best day to choose. So yeah, I'm actually gonna head inside now. Leon should be coming from work, so I don't know if he's here yet. But yeah, come with me, guys, and help me to not be so nervous. Y'all pray for me, please. Pray for me, honestly, because I'm low-key scared. Like, I'm not a public speaker, guys. Like, honestly, I'm not a fan of it, but we're gonna move with the Holy Spirit and do what he asks us to do. All right? Yeah. So you see, this is me chatting. So let's hope that I'm able to talk this freely when I go inside. All right, let's go for real this time, guys. Guys, look who I see. I didn't not see me. When I see him, I think when I see him. But it's Leon. I think him see me. He definitely didn't see me. But yeah, look at him about to call me now. Do not disturb my video, sir. Psst.
When I grow up, I want to be just like you, my brother. That was beautiful, trust me. Tonight, I am tasked with responsibility to introduce someone, a sister in Christ. Social media is indeed a space that majority of us have some affiliation with for various reasons. And tonight, my dear sister will be coming to give us a social media nugget. And I hope that you will be able to get a few nuggets and message from what she's about to share with us. So at this moment, I hand right over to my sister Ashley Blythe, who will be coming to share this social media nugget with us tonight.
Thank you and good night, everyone. So those of you who know me know I don't like public speaking. I've only ever stood at a podium twice in my life for something other than singing, right? And once was a Children's Day, so it never really counts, you know? And the other, I think I was forced into speaking. So I'm not really an upfront person, but ironically, for some reason, I have always liked sharing on social media. And as I say, it's ironic because I'm not an upfront person. But back in the day, I had very wrong motives. Back then, I was chasing after, everything else the world is chasing after. You want to be social media famous and all those big fancy things. But then the Lord had to kind of pull me back a little bit, and He reminded me of my purpose. And one of the verses that would often come to mind is Mark 16, verse 15, that says, "And He said unto them, Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature." And I am somebody who has also always wanted to go on a mission trip, but I'm not the richest of persons. Yet, thank you, yes, yet. So, mission trips are not necessarily the cheapest things to go on because you have to find your own plane fare and accommodations and all those things. But, I'm still keeping it in my back pocket. One day the Lord is going to allow me to go on a mission trip. But for now, I thought, why not create my own mission field? And when I thought about the verse, it reminded me of the fact that I have access to the whole world in my back pocket. Where the mission trip is, because I have a cell phone, and I have a tablet, I have a laptop, I have devices that I can use to reach to the entire world. And so I decided to use this as my mission field. And then from back in the day when, I loved posting myself on social media, I realized that human nature, we love to fast. So we like to pry into people's lives and live vicariously through people. I mean, I'm guilty of it a little. As I say, I'm not the richest. So when I see people traveling and I'm here working, I try to, live through them. But then I also realized that I'm not a preacher. And so if I'm going to share the gospel, I'm going to have to do it through my lifestyle. And so that is why I decided that I am going to use my social media to show the Christian lifestyle to the world. And for those, I don't know how many of you, I have a YouTube channel. Hi, beauties. And what I say on my YouTube channel is that I want to make people recognize that being a Christian is not boring. Because we grow up in the church and, we are kind of forced to think that we have to wear the straight jacket, especially as young people. And, those of you who know my background know I was forced into a straight jacket. And so when I grew up, I decided I need to come out of the straight jacket. And I realized that other young people were also of the mindset that in order to live the Christian lifestyle, we had to be very boring. And back then I wouldn't even think that I could come up here in a skirt that is not at my ankles, because that's how we were taught when we were younger. And so I wanted to ensure that other young people could realize that being a Christian is something that we should celebrate. Though, yes, we're going to have our trials and our tribulations, it is still fun. And I had a Vespa service on my channel last week where we spoke about being joyful even in the tough situations, because we know that they're going to come. But we can still be joyful, and that is what I want to show to the world through social media. And so on Instagram and on YouTube, sometimes I dabble on Twitter and so forth. I try to ensure that whatever I'm showing is realistic, one, but it is also showcasing that we can live a life that is emulating Christ on a daily basis. And so, in a few points, I have 3 points here. I know Sister Anita told us earlier some very practical ways that we can post the gospel online, but I want to share 3 quick points that we need to consider when it is that we are going to share our faith or evangelize on social media. And the first point that I have is that we need to craft our online persona. And in crafting your online persona, it means that you also need to craft your real life persona. Because whatever it is that you're showcasing online has to be the truth, right? Because you don't want to go online and say, oh guys, I'm reading my Bible, and you just pose with the Bible. And then after you take the picture, you post a little 10-second video, you put down the Bible. And I'm going to be honest, sometimes, I'm tempted to do that because I say I need to show people the Christian lifestyle. But I say, Ashley, but you need to make sure that you're actually living the Christian lifestyle. So if you're creating an online persona, it means also that you first need to work on your actual lifestyle. What is your relationship with God looking like? You need to create that before you can show that to the world, right? At one point, I also realized that creating an online persona doesn't necessarily mean also that I have to look like all the other Christian influencers. Because there are a lot of Christian influencers, although to be very honest, I've realized that there are very few Seventh-day Adventists on social media. Most of the Christian influencers are of other denominations, and so everything they post is not what we believe. But I used to think that I had to be like them and, post going to church and post scriptures all the while. And then I realized I have a unique story to tell. And like I said earlier, I'm not necessarily the person who's going to come on the pulpit and share my testimony. All my friends tell me I need to write a book. But I don't know, I find that I'm more comfortable talking to my phone camera. And so I am able to share my unique story online. And you might have a unique story as well. You may not necessarily be at the place where you can share your very deep testimony, because, not everybody is at that place. But what are some of the struggles that you're going through? Like we said, you have to be realistic. So as Christians, we all face different struggles. What it is that you feel comfortable sharing with others, that you will also be equipped to encourage. Because as we know, sometimes God puts us through trials so that we can encourage others. Because sometimes our trials are not for us, They're for us to use to encourage other people. And so the trials that we go through, God might have given you that trial so that you can share it, so that somebody can come into your DM or into the comment section and say, boy, I've been going through that very similar situation. Then you can reach out to that person and say, this is what you can do. Or like Sister Anita said, you can ask for the prayer request, pray for that person, right? And when you create that online persona that people feel connected to you, then it makes a world of a difference. Because, sometimes people are sharing and you don't feel connected and you're like, okay, yeah, you don't know, all right, moving on. Just like sometimes you come to church and the sermon might not necessarily connect with you. It's the same thing on social media. So everybody has their own place. All right? So I have the question, what is your purpose for being on social media? I don't know how many of us here are actually on social media, because I don't see as much of the aged young people in the congregation. I know we're all young at heart. But what is your purpose for being on social media? Are you just there to share Bible verses? I know my mother shares a devotional every morning. Or you just want to be somebody who's going to sing. You can post covers of different gospel songs, because that's what some people feel drawn to, music versus the word, that kind of thing. So find out what is your purpose, why it is that you want to be on social media, and make sure that it is not for vain reasons. Because we can sing, we can read, we can write, But remember that if we're going on social media to evangelize, it's not about me. It's about what you're sharing and the God that you're putting before other persons. And then the second point that I had is to foster meaningful conversations. And under this point, I had in very bold writing, be respectful, especially of other persons' opinions. As Christians, unfortunately, we can be very judgmental, harshly so, especially when it comes to certain topics. And we know what, those certain topics can be. But if it is that we are called to evangelize, we have to love everybody. And so somebody might come under your post and be of a different denomination, a different sexual orientation, whatever the case may be, but you don't know why it is that they were drawn to your post. And God might be using your post to win that person. And if that person, they might not be so inclined at the beginning, so they might come under there with a comment that you're like, seriously? Or you just want to delete it, because sometimes I'm tempted to do that. But we have to remember that we have to be respectful and to love everybody because we are Christ's witnesses. Sometimes I go into the workplace and when I'm going into the elevator, I say, Lord, please help me to reflect you in this space, because sometimes we need to remind ourselves of that. And it's the same thing on social media. All right? Another point I had was to not just hop on trends. And there are a lot of them. Sometimes I'm very disturbed when I see my young people hopping on some of the trends that are out there, because some of the songs that they use are very disturbing. And we know that, yes, it's going to get you the views, but then it comes back down to what is your motive? What's the heart posture? Why are you posting here? Is it that you just want the views, you want to go viral, or is there supposed to be a message behind your post? And yes, even some of the Christian influencers, I see them use these trending audios and put a little Christian thing on the screen. But then a lot of times we hear the audio before we read what's on the screen. And so you hear the audio and you can't believe that this is supposed to be a Christian post, right? So you still have to be very mindful of the trends that you're hopping onto, because the post is not just what is written, but it's the body posture, the language, the audio, everything. Sometimes even the font can make a world of a difference. All right? In fostering meaningful conversations also, there is potential for mutual support, encouragement, and learning, meaning that we can build community via social media. I remember posting sometime last week or the week before that, I'm looking for physical community. And there were several young people who reached out and said, yes, I'm looking for that too. And as a result of that, some of them, we have been going back and forth in DMs and so forth, because a lot of people need somebody to talk to, and they don't feel like they can find that in the church or at home or at school, at work, so forth. And so through social media, we can build that community, and we can encourage one another in a way that we may not necessarily be able to do in a physical space. And then the last point that I have is a very major one, and this one is on navigating challenges and negative feedback. Because, brethren, there will be criticisms, and I touched on it earlier. But my secret, you know what I do? I just laugh. And if you know me in real life, I laugh a lot. So sometimes I see the negative comments, and honestly, I just laugh. And I'm like, okay, and just keep it moving. Because sometimes the human mind, the response that comes is not WWJD, what would Jesus do? Right? So you just gotta laugh and brush it aside. And then if you feel it pressing on your heart that you feel like you want to respond, pray about it. Because like I said, a lot of these people are actually looking for answers. They're actually looking for something more, but they just don't know where and how to go about it. And so at the beginning, they might come across harsh. But if you respond to them with love, you might just be surprised at how you can turn that negative comment around and how you can influence that person. All right? So do some self-reflections on your motivations, your impact, and your approach. I would have emphasized this throughout the entire presentation to remember what is the motivation behind you posting online. Because if it is that it's all about self, the negativity is going to get to you. If it's just about you. because you're going to take it personal and say, but them a bash Ashley. Right? And sometimes, too, we might also feel like we need to defend God. And we all know we ain't got to do that. So we have to take a step back sometimes and really think about, why am I here? What am I doing? Was this, and before most of my videos, yes, most, because sometimes I just post, but before most of it, I tend to pray and say, God, what exactly is it that you want me to post? Is this what you want me to post? If I have a video idea, is this what you want me to post? How do you want me to present it? And if it is that you do that before you post, then you know when the negativity comes, it's just the devil and him minions, or somebody just, and then God will now guide you in responding to that person. So those were the 3 points I wanted to share. And all in all, just to remind us that social media is not a bad tool. I know when back in the day we were told that, but I'm happy to see that we're all coming to the realization that we can actually use social media to share our faith. But as long as we remember our motive and remember why we are posting on social media, then God can definitely use each and every one of us, each one, reach one, and then we can help to spread the gospel to all the world, because guess what? Me want to go home. I don't know about you, but I want to go home. So anything I can do to help the gospel reach a little further, I'm going to do that. All right? Thank you so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Ain't nobody stopping my shine. They try to break me, try to take me out, but I got Jesus on my side.